Yo, what's happening? It is Monday Night Monday Live. I am Jason Priester, all ClemsonTigers.com. Different surroundings, same show. It is rivalry week. Hate week is upon us. Clemson heads back out on the road after winning three straight at home, taking out Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and now most recently North Carolina. Question becomes, can the Tigers go out on the road, man, and do what they've done the past 3 weeks? Because they have not been very good on the road. Outside of maybe the Syracuse game much earlier in the season, they just were not very good at NC State, at Miami, and this is going to be an atmosphere that they have not played in yet to date this season. Probably by far, Kate, the toughest atmosphere Cade Klubnik will have seen. Say what you will about Williams Bryce and the crowd and all that. It is a raucous, it is absolutely raucous atmosphere. Um, one of the best things that could happen is Clemson taking that crowd out of that thing early, kind of the way they did the last time they went up there. Man, that crowd, the roof was ready to come off that place when the ball was finally kicked off that night. And Clemson did a very good job of taking that crowd out of that game early, just took the wind out of their sails almost instantly. And if they could do that again this week, that would go a long ways towards getting a victory, in my opinion. Because again, just things just don't seem to go Clemson's way on the road this year. And this is not going to be an easy one, I don't think. On the flip side, Clemson is playing as well as they have played all season long. The offense, while not extremely explosive, it is efficient, it's balanced. Clemson's found its running game. Like I said about Maffa last week, I thought he looked like a different dude after Shipley got hurt, and he was the guy against Notre Dame. I think Shipley's looked like a different dude the past 2 weeks, and he really looked like he it's a much more inspired effort. I thought Pat this last week against North Carolina. I thought he played pissed off, and when he's able to channel those emotions the right way, I think it makes him a better player, and I think he did that Saturday. And I think Clemson's kind of found their mojo at running back. Obviously you got to have the blocking up front. Starts with that, and they've been getting that the past 3 weeks. But those backs, I think they've got the rotation figured out now, and those backs have played really well the past couple of weeks, 3 weeks really, going back to the Notre Dame game with Maffa when Shipley was out. We got to talk to a few players today. It was a pretty bland, not much, pretty bland interview session. Nothing new, noteworthy coming out of any of those things. Not like last year. I remember Jake Brennan still talking about how you know South Carolina dominate, or curb stomping Tennessee. Would probably have them coming into Clemson with the big head, and he thought they were going to dominate. We didn't get any kind of you know headlines like that today. The most obvious thing that was said today was by Will Putnam when he said, you got to keep your helmet on at all times. But that's certainly not newsworthy or telling anybody anything they didn't already know. It's definitely not flaming any fires or putting that on anybody's bulletin board. Mm. For me, once again, one of the biggest things this week's going to be watching Nate Wiggins cover Xavier Leggett. I thought he was fantastic on Tez Walker last weekend or this past Saturday. Outside of that one long one there at the beginning of the game, Nate owned that battle, man. He ended up picking off a pass. He had the hellacious, you know, where he ran down the guy and stripped the ball out, where he clocked at over 22 miles an hour, man. It's just unheard of. Only a handful of guys at Clemson have ever been clocked at over 22 miles an hour in a game, and he's one of them. That's you take Xavier Leggett out of that South Carolina offense, and good things are probably going to happen because they are kind of one dimensional. They don't run the ball, man. And he's a big part of what they do. And in their bigger games, he's kind of been, you know, in their losses, he's been a non-factor. I think he averages like 4 catches a game or something like that in those losses. So if you can take him out of the equation, limit what he does, good things are probably going to happen for you because they don't run the ball, and they're if you turn it, they don't run the ball well. Their offensive line's not all that great. I think everybody remembers the season opening loss to North Carolina where they gave up 9 sacks. Um, North Carolina didn't register a single sack against Clemson last week. So I think a lot of these matchups favor Clemson. Clemson's just got to stay out of their own way. Protect the football, not go up there and go down there and turn it over a bunch, not play sloppy. You got to win the margin. That's where it starts and stops. You got to win the margin. If you keep giving them extra possessions, you're probably gonna come out of there with a loss. Protect the football, you'll come away with the win. Clemson's the better football team. Turnovers will be the equalizer if Clemson can't protect the football. How many yards would Jason need to beat Nate Wiggins in a 40? Yeah, that was a question that got asked by pretty much every player today. I guess John over at the Post and Courier is working on some kind of story there because he asked that about everybody. I would need about 30 minimum. If I was gonna beat him in a 40, I'm gonna need at least a 30-yard head start. 30-yard head start. Chicken soup week, roast your turkey, smoke those chickens. Rent's due come Saturday at 7:30. Yeah, Clemson's kind of, the Clemson's played very well at Williams-Brice Stadium. It's just they ain't been very good away from home this year. Something's got to give here, man. Something's got to give. Better get pressure on Rattler. Even though our DBs are good, Rattler will sling some dots when he has time to throw. No, it's kind of like Drake May, right, man? You can't let him sit back there and have all day to, you know, scan the field. Your DBs can only cover for so long, even your best DBs. They're only going to hold up so long. You got to put pressure on him. You can't let him get comfortable. I think that's going to be key. And I think this defense is capable of doing that. Everybody's healthy up front, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a positive. But if your linebackers are back healthy now, that's a positive. So I mean, all those things are in Clemson's favor. You got to put pressure on Rattler. And fortunately, he's not the runner Drake May is. May was able to squeeze off a couple big runs where they lost contain on him. And I thought that was going to be key going in, that they were going to have to be aggressive but disciplined at the same time. And he was able to break that contain, multiple times. That's something they got to clean up, even though Rattler's not quite the runner that Drake May is. If you give him the opportunity and a lot of space, he'll make you pay with his legs. Better take Rattler down when they get hands on him, because he can make plays when you let him loose with his arm. Yeah, he I think everybody knows what Spencer Rattler is. If you give him time, man, and he can slice you up. But again, if you can take Leggett out of this thing, man, you got to like where he's standing, because they're kind of a one-man show on offense right now, from what I've seen. Anyways, I haven't seen every one of their games this year, but the ones I've seen, Leggett's been a big part of it since they're missing Juice Wells. I see Nicholas Harper's listed as a starter on their depth chart. I don't know how far along he is in his development, but I know he's still got a long ways to go. Last I heard, and that's just a few weeks ago. So it's not like he's grown that much in that short amount of time. So if you're listing Harbor as one of your starters, you probably got some depth issues there. All my Tar Heel friends, Tar Hole friends were crying that Wiggins stepped out of bounds before he knocked the ball out. All he's got to do is reestablish himself. If he reestablishes himself, he can come back in and knock the ball out. And the replays I saw, he absolutely stepped out of bounds, but I also think he got back in before he knocked the ball out of his hands. Somehow Leggett is a finalist for the Bolitnikoff, even though he has been throttled by most defenses he's met in the SEC. Yeah, like I said a minute ago, he's kind of been bottled up in their losses. He's not been. I think it's like 4 catches a game or something like that. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up here. Texas A&M, Tennessee, Missouri, Georgia. He averages 4 catches a game, 40 yards a game. It's the rest of the schedule. The weaker teams on the schedule where he's done his damage. He averages 7 catches a game and 145 yards per game. All 7 of his touchdowns against the rest of the schedule. He's not caught a touchdown against Tennessee, Texas A&M, Missouri, or Georgia. And I like Xavier Leggett. I think he is a great football player, but he ain't Keon Coleman, and I don't even think he's Taz Walker, to be quite honest. You're probably not going to shut him completely down, but I don't think there's any reason to think Nate Wiggins can't do to him what he did to Taz Walker this past Saturday. Herb Wells might be back for this guy. He's not on the depth chart. I can tell you that. I saw somebody today saying he was kind of, I don't know what he said on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it is, TikTok or something. I don't know. I don't do any of that stuff. But somebody said he was hinting around to it. He's not listed on their depth chart. He hadn't hardly played all season long. I'd be very surprised if he's even close to being in game shape. So even if he does come back, yeah, I don't. I like Clemson's cornerbacks this year, man. Their pass defense is so much better than what it was a year ago, and they're so much deeper than just Nate. Avion Terrell showed he's ready to roll, man. The past few weeks, he's kind of got that dog in him, man. He's kind of got ice water in his veins. He is absolutely ready for this moment. I don't care if it's at home, on the road. I like Clemson's secondary against this South Carolina group of receivers, Juice Wells or no Juice Wells. To me, the biggest worry is Clemson's offense and can they stay out of their own way on the road. Don't forget, if you have not hit that subscribe button, hit it right now. No better time than the present. 62.4% of our views come from people who are not subscribed to the channel. It's just one little click right up there at the top of the screen. All of you that are subscribed, we very much appreciate it. And you can just, once you subscribe, you can click that notify me button, and you know every time we go live. You'll never miss it. Just don't see South Carolina blocking our front four or when we blitz. Yeah, I don't think South Carolina's offensive line is very good, not from what I've seen. And I don't think Clemson's going to have to do a ton of blitzing, to be honest. South Carolina doesn't run the ball very well. Um, they've struggled to run the ball all year long. If you can get pressure on Rattler, I mean that's point set match. Yeah, I love the matchup of Clemson's defense against their offense because it's kind of one dimensional. I mean, if you watch the second half of that Kentucky game the other night, you got a good look at it. I mean, it's very one dimensional. I'm trying to look up South Carolina stats here right now. Thought I already had them pulled up, but I do not. Let's see. Yeah, they're averaging 87.6 rushing yards per game, 2.8 yards per carry. You know that, and Clemson's run defense is much better than the numbers would suggest. They kind of got skewed by the last couple of weeks. I mean, they played against some pretty good rushing attacks. They're giving up about 120 yards per game, but their rush defense has actually played a little bit better, and I think the numbers suggest. Um, South Carolina's leading rusher Mario Anderson, he's got 701 yards on the season. I mean, they just he averages 61 yards a game. They do not run the ball very well, and I don't think any one dimensional offense is going to have a whole lot of success against Clemson. I think the Wells chatter is more wishful thinking. I kind of lean towards that myself. I think it's more wishful thinking, um, or or at the very least trying to make the Clemson coaching staff think he's going to play or possibly going to play, and having to make them prepare for that, even though they will anyways. I mean, um, it's just part of that chess match. I think it's more wishful thinking too. Zach says, as a Bolitnikov Award voter, he can say he did not vote for Leggett. At this point, we have to assume Clemson is going to have at least one fumble, maybe two, and or an INT. If they turn the ball over 3 times, they're probably going to come out on the losing end of this game. If you turn it over once or twice, I think they can overcome that. But if you get above that number, if you get above 2 turnovers, you're starting to play with fire. They've been much better about protecting the football of late, and they've been much better at forcing turnovers. Um, if you can, if you turn it over 3 times and your defense forces 4, that's a whole different story. But if you turn it over 3 times and you only force 1 or 2, you're starting to play with fire. I think once you get up to 3, you're starting to play with fire. I think they can survive 1 or 2, but after that, all bets are off. I just don't know how much I trust this Clemson offense going on the road, man. They've given me no reason to think they're going to go in there and blow this team's doors off or anything. They've just not been able to stay out of their own way long enough. Do I think Will Shipley stays another year? I lean towards saying no. I do not. I think one of those running backs comes back, and as we sit here right now, today, on Monday, November 20th at 7:20 p.m., I think it's going to be Maffa. Now, this time next week, this time tomorrow, I might change my mind. I just think, Shipley's graduating in December. He ran down the hill Saturday for senior day. I just think he's ready to move on, and I don't think he's going to transfer. I think he's going to head off to the NFL. And no, he's not going to be a day one draft pick or anything like that. And I don't think he cares. I think he's just, if that is the decision he makes, I think it'll be because he's just ready for the next chapter in his life. I think he's just ready to go take his shot. Some guys are like that. It is what it is. I see our D having a game. If the offense protects the ball, it's game over. If the offense protects the ball and doesn't turn it over at all, then maybe Clemson goes in there and blows their doors off. Because Clemson's got should be able to run the ball on this team as they've ran the ball the past 3 weeks. Um, that South Carolina does not run the ball as an offense very well. I don't think they stop the run very well either. Yeah, they're giving up upwards of 150 yards on the ground every game. So that's about what North Carolina was giving up. And we saw how well Clemson was able to run the ball against them. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. And to me, that takes a ton of pressure off Klubnik. He doesn't have to, be the guy. They can lean on that ground game, something they should have done last year and didn't. And I don't think you'll see them make the same mistake twice. How early will Dabo call a fake punt Saturday? I saw so many people referring to that fake punt Saturday as the worst call of the season. To me, it's the second worst call of the season because the worst was the fake punt the week before last on the 4th and 9 from your own 20 or 25 or whatever it was. So I didn't understand either. I get it. They wanted to give TD a shot there on senior day, man. But I don't know. I just feel like you could have picked a better spot or a better way to go about it. Even though, it's not like it was 4th and 9 on your own 20 or 25 or whatever it was. It wasn't as egregious as that one. You got to hope they learn from, the trickeration last year too against South Carolina because it burned them last year. They tried to get cute on that kickoff, and they did the little huddle thing, man, and it ended up in a fumble, and it was disastrous. They just hopefully they leave that stuff in Clemson, man, and save it for the next opponent. Clemson needs to run the ball and throw short passes. Well, that's kind of been the recipe the last 3 weeks. So yeah, I would absolutely agree. You don't really have anybody that's a threat to stretch the field consistently. We're starting to get glimpses of what Adam Randall can possibly be, but man, he's playing with a broken hand, and now Bo Collins is tore his plantar fascia. He's questionable for Saturday. And if he plays, he's not going to be 100%. So, yeah, you're going to have to still, like you've seen on the past 3 weeks, lean on that short, intermediate stuff. It is what it is. That's where this offense is right now until you can get, some infusion of talent at receiver because they're kind of hamstrung with what they can do. If Wiggins had not made that play, I don't think we'd have come back from a 14-0 start. Look, Clemson's very fortunate they were not down 21-0. And after that first quarter, you know, the not only that fumble, you had the other fumble inside the 5. Hampton had 2 fumbles. Clemson's fortunate they were not down 21-0. And no, I agree. I don't think Clemson's offense is equipped to climb out of those type of holes right now. They just don't have that quick strike capability. Not to do it, 2-3 times to try to climb out of a 2-3 touchdown hole. So yeah, I absolutely agree, man. That was the play of the game. If he doesn't make that play, it's probably game over. As T Money here says, game was changed by that play because they came, like he said, they came right back, 80-yard touchdown drive. So yeah, I agree. Play of the game. He doesn't make that play, man. You're probably looking at a loss. might run Shipley out 20 yards or so a few times in two back sets. Yeah, I like the two back sets. I wish they'd use them a little bit more, especially with as little as you're getting out of the passing game. I mean, well, let me rephrase that. I wish they'd use them more, seeing as they're not getting a whole lot of explosiveness out of the passing game. The downside of going with the two back sets is it takes one of the pass catchers off the field, and if you're not stretching the field consistently with your passing game, maybe it doesn't hurt quite so much to take one of those guys off the field and just kind of do a little bit more grounding and pounding. Here's an excellent point. Still like Cade's going to get somebody hurt if he a lot of his balls were up high over the middle of the field Saturday. Man, he was hanging them up, and that's how you get guys hurt. You got to get some of those things down. Even though a couple of them probably should have been caught, still those things are a little bit too high, and he's hanging his receivers out to dry. You just can't. You do that too often, you're going to get somebody killed over the middle of the field. He's got to be better with his ball placement on some of those slants across the middle of the field. It's got to be better because yeah, he left a couple of those guys hanging out to dry Saturday. Think Hannafin gets more run with Bo hurt. Depends on how much Bo can play. If Bo's limited, yeah, he's the backup. If Bo's limited, Ronnie Hannafin's who you're going to see. He came in early Saturday. I didn't know what was wrong with Bo, but I even tweeted it out that he was not playing, and I couldn't tell what was wrong. I couldn't tell if they were working on his shoe or messing with his foot, but I knew something wasn't right. And then, a couple series later, he ends up coming back in. But he was a non-factor all day. But still, he did get back on the field. But yeah, if he's limited, yeah, Hannafin's going to get more run because he's the guy behind Bo. Randall's starting on the other side of the field. The defense has been turning over opponents at an insane clip. The offense hasn't magically fixed itself. No, it's not fixed completely, but it's better than what it was. Let's put it that way. And add in the defense is forcing some turnovers too. But I do think the offense has been better at not having those back-breaking critical mistakes at the most inopportune times. And you're not seeing we didn't see a fumble return for a touchdown the other day or anything like that. No, but yeah, the defense forcing a bunch of turnovers absolutely helps. If you could win the margin, Clemson wins the margin Saturday, I think they win. Period. Plantar fasciitis is not like a torn ACL, but I've done it once and it was the most painful thing I've seen. Yeah, I'm not familiar. All I know is he said it was a torn plantar fascia. I guess that's the same thing as plantar fasciitis. I've never had that issue, but no, it's not like a torn ACL, and it's kind of like Dabo said last night. It's just going to depend on how sore he is and whether he can go or not. And I'm sure they'll probably give him something for the pain to try to get him rolling and see where he is if it's needed. I'll be surprised if he doesn't play or at least try to go. He's obviously not going to be 100%, but I'll be surprised if he doesn't play at all. And I saw this tweet out here yesterday, or I think it was yesterday or the day before, about how Bo Collins is out and Troy Staffilato is extremely banged up, and I don't even remember what I said, but Bo's not out. Stelato's not extremely banged up. The obviously Turner's out and Antonio's out, and some guys are obviously nursing some nicks and bruises at this point in the season. But Bo's not been ruled out. And I think he'll probably at least try to play like he did Saturday. And Stelato's not extremely banged up or anything like that. So, I mean, you're as healthy as you've been the past few weeks. My concern is that Cade Klubnik is what he is. What does the staff think about the QB room? Is Dabo going to try and flip a 2024 QB? No, they're not going to try and flip a 2024 QB. They're not taking one. Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a possibility Cade is what he is. I don't think he is, though. I think he's a young quarterback who's still growing. We've seen so many examples of guys being so much better their junior and senior years than they were their freshman and sophomore years. I mean, go look at, Penix at Washington, go Joe Burrow at LSU. I mean, there's so many examples. Um, guys continuing to grow as they get into their career. And I don't think Klubnik's been terrible by any stretch over the past 3 or 4 weeks. I'm actually seeing some growth, man. He's starting to get more comfortable at running the ball, starting to know when to do it and when not to do it. And to me, one of the last things lacking in that department, he needs to add some more bulk, get a little bit stronger. But I still think there's a lot of room for Cade to go up and to grow. And I can tell you this, they absolutely believe that inside that building. They think he's just scratching the surface with what he can do. And no, they don't have any plans to try and flip a 2024 quarterback. They don't have any plans to go get somebody out of the portal or bring in to compete with him at this time. He is the guy, man. He's the guy. And they fully 100% believe that. I see the recruiting stuff. Any recruiting questions, just throw them in there. I'll jump on them at the end. Wonder why Shipley thinks he is NFL ready with all the fumbles. Maffa has started looking like running back one. Does the Jamu May game look like Shipley? It's there's a lot of layers to that there. All that matters is what he thinks, man. And sometimes it's not so much about whether he thinks he's NFL ready. I think the plan for Shipley might have always been 3 and out, 3 and done. He's always been on pace to graduate in December. Yeah, he's had fumbleitis this year. Make no mistake. It's something he's going to have to correct. And again, he's not going to be a high draft pick. He's not going to be some first, second, third round pick. He probably won't even go into fourth round. Some guys, and I don't know that this is Shipley, but some guys they don't want to do school no more. He's graduated. To play again, he's going to have to enroll in grad school if he wants to play at college again. And some dudes just they're ready to be done with school and move on to the next step in their life, whether that means they're a fifth round pick or an undrafted free agent or whatever. They believe in themselves enough to go take that shot, and they're betting on themselves. And if Shipley decides to head off for the NFL, that will be what he's doing, is betting on himself. Klubnik needs time with Riley. Both were learning each other on the field. Give them time. That's another thing. Klubnik's learning his second system in as many years. He's played under 2 offensive coordinators in 2 different years. And he does not have the receivers are okay. But they're not elite. He don't have anything close to what guys like Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, those guys had to work with. They just there's no receiver like a Mike Williams or a T. Higgins or a Sammy Watkins or a Nuke Hopkins or even a Martavis Bryant on the roster right now. it's just that they've kind of taken a step back at wide receiver. They've missed on some guys, and it's affected them in a big way. So he's not getting a lot of help down the field. I think that's one thing that is out of his control. Um, for a big part of this season, he had no running game to lean on. So you're talking about inexperienced quarterback with receivers that can't stretch the field vertically and a running game that was non-existent. So yeah, it's going to lead to an inexperienced quarterback making mistakes and trying to do too much. And I think that's what we saw from Klubnik earlier in the year. But I also think we've seen growth from him the last few weeks, man. I mean, um, I get it. The play before halftime. If he doesn't make it, man, he's going to be getting killed because he's not supposed to run the ball there. It's reminiscent. Same thing in the Orange Bowl, Tennessee last year. Can't run the ball there. He did. Got stopped short. Don't get a field goal. He does the same thing this time. He scores. He scores and everything's good. If he doesn't get in there, he's catching hell right now, man. You know, it just shows that's why they say football is a game of inches, you know, because it's just that far away from going off the rails. I think Cade is improving, really needs 10 more pounds or so. He's going to keep working. Yeah, I think he needs about at least 10 more pounds. He needs to be stronger, a little bit more bulked up, you know, to sustain some of the hits he's taking. He's not I will say this, he's not as effective of a runner as I thought he was going to be at this level. Um, I don't know if that's something that'll come later. Usually, most of the time, you know, you've got that or either you don't. And you know, watching his high school film, I thought he had it, but he's not been the runner that I thought he would be in this offense. But he's getting better. He's getting better. He was not very good over the first half of the season. He's been a lot better the last couple games. Probably this last game was his best yet. What concerns me about Cade is he loves Johnny football growing up and tries to mirror his game after him. That's a mistake, in my opinion. I don't. I heard what Cade said today. Yeah, it was his favorite player growing up. I don't see the big deal. Johnny Manziel had a hell of a lot of success as a college quarterback. If Cade's mimicking his game after what Manziel did in college, it's hard to argue against that. Didn't Dabo say he's expected Cole to bulk up a little bit? Yeah, they want him to add another. They'd like him to be 205, 210, or 210, 215. They'd like him to add about another 10 pounds. He's probably right around 200 right now. I guess maybe 205. That's probably pushing it. I think he was 207 coming into the season, if I'm remembering right. So he's probably closer to 200 now. Um, Probably needing 210 minimum. I wouldn't mind seeing him up around 215. Did the staff offer another wide receiver with no ranking out of Louisiana? Not that I'm aware of. You're gonna have to give me a name, brother. Let's see. I'll see if I. Here we go. Do you think Jeff Scott returns next season? I don't know. Um, you know, we'll have to see what Dabo does with that staff. I could see him being back. It depends on what Dabo does with his staff. I kind of lean towards him maybe coming back in an administrative type role, but I might be wrong. We'll see. Um, if he wants to come back, he'd probably be welcome back with open arms, and they'd find something for him to do. But I do think there's probably going to be a spot or two open on that staff this year. after the season's over with. I think there's going to be a little bit of shuffling done there. So I think it's a possibility. But right now, I kind of lean towards thinking if there is, maybe it's an administrative role because I don't think you can bring him back as a co-offensive coordinator. I just don't think you can do it, and I'm not sure. We're talking about a guy who's going out and been a head coach. Is he going to want to come back and just be a wide receiver coach and nothing else? Because as long as Garrett Riley's there, I don't think you can make him co-coordinator, especially with the money they've got tied up in Garrett Riley's salary. I don't think you could pay both of them coordinator salaries. Let's see if I can find the recruiting stuff here. All right. I know there were some. I just can't find them now. I saw where we offered a preferred walk-on out of Greer High for next year. Yeah, I think they handed out a couple of PWOs this weekend, more than one. So that's probably what might. Yeah, this Parker kid. That's it. Yeah, he's not a full ride. Clemson only handed out one scholarship offer over the weekend. It's not to the guy you're talking about. Was a receiver though. Juju Preston, 2025 wide receiver out of Virginia. That is the only guy that picked up an offer this weekend. The rest you see on Twitter were walk-on offers and PWO offers. How many games does Noble Johnson have against his red shirt? I think the bowl game doesn't count. So I'm sure he can play this week and he's still good to go. Because the bowl game's not going to count against that. So I'm pretty sure he can play this week if they need him. But I don't think it really matters because I think he's a guy that just some guys need a year, and I just think he's one of those guys. Let's see here. Trying to look it up right fast. Pretty sure he's only played in 2. It might have been 3 though. Here we go. And there's so much stuff here. It's hard to find what you're looking for. Let's see. He played 1 game, 2 games, 3 games. He's played in 3 games. He actually played a snap versus North Carolina. So he's got 1 more he can play in. And again, the bowl game wouldn't count against that. So he could play this weekend and next weekend. Mm-hmm. All right. Here's one. Andrew Dennis is the old lineman you're thinking about. I saw on a post on a board. He spent a lot of time hanging with his Yama made. That's probably good. I saw him hanging out with Marcus Tate when I saw him Saturday. I'm supposed to talk with him tomorrow. I have not talked with him yet, so I haven't gotten any feedback from him. But I was told by somebody up here today that they think the visit went as well as it could have. they couldn't have done it. It went as well as it could have been, as effective, maybe even better. Um, got up here, I think they said late Thursday night, stayed up through the weekend. So he was here all weekend. Um, the guy I talked to today said the biggest thing hurting Clemson is the distance, between home and Clemson. He wants to go to school or the goal has been to go to school somewhere closer to home, and South Carolina's not very close to Michigan, which is where he's from. Um, Penn State's kind of been considered the leader. He's still going to take a couple more visits, Purdue and Illinois. But based on what I was told today, I think they killed it with him this weekend, man. I don't think the logistics is nearly as big as a factor now as it was coming into the weekend. But again, I want to talk to him tomorrow and see what he says about that before I say much more about it. But going by what I heard up here today, man, they killed it with him. They think they did really well. Um, Other offensive line target, Favor Edwin. He was not here this weekend. There was some wondering whether he'd show up or not for his official visit this weekend. I didn't think he was going to. Was originally supposed to take an official for the Georgia Tech weekend. Couldn't come. They had a playoff game that day. His team was knocked out, so they're no longer in the playoffs. They were knocked out that day. So originally the talk was he was going to push it back a week. I have not talked to Favor. I have made multiple attempts to get in touch with him, and he's not responded back to me. Which he in the past he always would. He's always been very accessible, but since his visit got interrupted or canceled weekend before last, he's not he's not responded to any of my questions about rescheduling. His thought that Auburn is probably in the driver's seat, and he has now set up an official to Alabama the weekend of December the 8th. So maybe Alabama's getting in this thing now. Um, I am. I'm not really expecting Clemson to get an official at this point. To be quite honest, I feel like if he was planning to come back as open and honest as he's been with me over the past 6 months since Clemson really started recruiting him hard ever since he came to camp back in the summer, I feel like he'd tell me. I'm just very skeptical that Clemson's going to get another visit at this point. So that kind of leaves you with Dennis, who we were talking about a minute ago, and Elijah Thurman, four-star offensive lineman from Georgia, who took his official for the Georgia Tech weekend. Touched base with him last week one day. Called the visit incredible, but he's still planning to take his official visit to South Carolina. The weekend of December the 8th. So we'll see how it shakes out. I think if you can land one of those guys, the way offensive line recruiting is going in this cycle, man, you got to look at it as a win. If you strike out on both those guys, whew, that'll be bad. That'll be bad. Any other recruiting stuff? Bradley, I don't have anything new on Bradley Shaw. Past what I said last week, I think it's a matter of if. I mean, excuse me. I think it's just now a matter of when, not if. He visited for the Florida State game, unofficial visit. He came back. We talking four-star linebacker Bradley Shaw, who we're talking about. He's out of Alabama. Again, he took an unofficial for Florida State, took his official for Georgia Tech, and best I can tell, he took no visits between those two. He's a guy that does not talk to the media, so it's hard to kind of track his travel and see where he's been and that kind of stuff. But based on what I was told last week, again, I think it's just a matter of when, not if, and how he goes about doing it. if Clemson goes into the portal, are they looking for a defensive end and wide receiver? Seems like Carter is coming back at linebacker. I don't. You just got to see who goes and who stays. I do think they're going to. I think it's a no brainer. They're going to try and land a defensive end because they got an extra spot to take a third defensive end in this class if they wanted to. Um, and they're making no effort to do it. Solomon Williams was a guy who was on the radar, but they were never able to get back down here, and they never really made an effort to expand the board after that. And you're losing both starters, and you don't have a ton of depth there. So I absolutely expect Clemson to try and address defensive end through the portal. Outside of that, we're just gonna have to wait and see who goes and who stays. There's just no way to know for sure yet. Will Sammy Brown play any running back at Clemson? Not the way, probably not in the way you're thinking. He's recruited to play linebacker, man. He's going to be a linebacker at the next level, and he's a great running back in high school, man. He's twitchy, he's explosive, um, but he's going to be a linebacker at Clemson. Maybe you see him as the guy on some of those jumbo packages we've seen Clemson run a time or two here in the past, but outside of that, I don't think we're looking at him as a two-way player in the way Travis Hunter is at Colorado. Running backs take a beating, man. You don't want him to take that kind of beating on his body and playing running back and linebacker. That would be taking just double the beating your body takes on it. I think Clemson's also set up pretty well at running back, assuming they don't lose both Maffa and Shipley. I love the guys coming in. Ajamame. So I think somebody asked me a minute ago, was he was his game similar to Shipley's? And no, Ajamame can that dude can move, man. He's got top end speed like Shipley or Normafa have. He runs like a 10.9 100 meter. He can fly. Is there another offensive lineman on the radar outside the three offered? You know what? There's one in-state kid, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. That might be worth keeping an eye on, but it's really those three, man. If you don't if you go after anybody else after that, you're going way down the ladder, and you're really talking about fallback guys that'll probably never see the field. So is it do you, do, do you take a guy just to take a guy? I think Clemson's kind of stopped doing that. I don't think they're really just taking guys to fill a spot anymore, especially now that you got the portal there. Um, I just I don't think if they don't hit on one of these guys that they're after right now, I just think that's it. I think they if they think they need to address it before next year in the portal, I think you'll see them do that. I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure what's happened in this class will be felt as early as next year. Maybe you feel it in 2025. Um, but it's always something you can address in the portal if you need to. We've already seen Clemson try to address the offensive line in the portal, so that wouldn't be anything new. What was the verbal dust up between Peter Woods and Tyler Day? Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I saw it. That is I wouldn't read too much into it. I'm sure Peter Woods is going to meet with the media tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be asked about that. I you know things get heated on the sideline sometimes, man. Everybody's competitive. It just sometimes things boil over. I can't tell you specifically what it was about, though. But I think it was Woods and Rook, not Woods and Tyler Davis, that kind of had some words. What recruit am I most excited about? Two. I give you two of them. The two receivers, TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco. I think both those guys just bring a dynamic that Clemson doesn't have at receiver right now. Clemson's got some solid receivers. They don't have any elite receivers. I think Wesco's elite. I think TJ Moore can be elite. So I think they are an immediate injection of talent into that wide receiver room. So those are the two guys that I am the most excited about seeing play in this Clemson offense. Somebody that can stretch the field for you. Does Rook have another year? Nope. Rook, I don't think Rook's. I think Rook. This was Rook's last year. I remember he had a decision to make last year. I might be wrong about that. Let's see. All right. 19, 20. This was his fifth year, and he's already redshirted. So this is it for him. Where do you see the recruiting class ends up in the final ranks? Probably somewhere. It's going to be outside the top 10 for sure, man. Missing on those offensive linemen is going to kill Clemson in the end, but probably somewhere, maybe not even as high, maybe lower than 15th. Since Trotter is 99% gone for sure, who besides Carter and Woodaz do you think impresses the most as the third linebacker in the 2020 in 2024? Creighton, maybe. Maybe. Just haven't seen enough of any of those guys to be quite honest. Not I hadn't seen enough of Creighton or Kobe McLeod or any of them. Somebody's gonna have to step up because it's expecting a lot if you're expecting Sammy Brown to come in and fill the shoes of Jeremiah Trotter as a true freshman. So they're gonna they're gonna need one of those guys to step up on. Depending on how you see, if you're on the inside of that building and how you see those guys, the development of those guys, maybe you look to the portal and try to get a 1 year rental. It just depends on where you think Sammy Brown's going to be when he gets here, where you think guys like D. Creighton, Jamal Anderson, and Kobe McLeod are going to be next year. Like we just haven't seen much of those guys. I thought I saw a few some flashes from Kobe McLeod when he played. What was that against Georgia Tech? Maybe whatever game that was, he played a little bit. Just haven't seen enough of those guys. We'll see though, because it's going to be one of the biggest questions going into next year if Trotter does in fact leave, and I think he probably will. Does FSU have their money right because they're going to have to go in the portal again to build their championship team? I don't know that they're going to have to hit the portal as hard. I've talked about it on here a few times. From what I was told by somebody I know down where that covers Florida State was that the goal was to hit the portal hard, right? So and hopefully build a championship team, and that would lead to more success on the recruiting trail. And it already has. They've got one of the top recruiting classes in the country. I'm not saying they won't have to go to the portal at all, but I don't think they're going to have to hit it as hard. Norvell He's kind of like Dabo. He'd rather build through high school recruiting, but he just he knew if he wanted to win right now, he had to go the route of the portal, and they had the donors come up with the cash, and they spent a lot of it, on those guys this season. They're going to lose a lot of them. We'll see how hard they hit it again next year. I'll be surprised if they hit it as hard as they did this year, because man, their recruiting class right now is one of the two or three best in the country, top to bottom. They've absolutely killed it, and I don't think they're done. They might very well end up with the top recruiting class in the country. We just have to see how it plays out, and if they end up flipping a couple guys. Why didn't Trotter and Carter walk for senior day? They're not graduated. I don't think Dabo lets you walk unless you're graduated or on pace to graduate. FSU would be light on experience, expect them to get a QB and some receivers. I didn't say they wouldn't go to the portal at all. I just don't think they're going to have to hit it hard like they did last year. I'm not convinced they're going to have to go to the portal for a quarterback either. They've got a guy on their roster that's pretty good, and his name is escaping me right this second, but can't remember if they've got one in this class or not. I'm not sure they do. Yeah, they do. They got one in this class. They got a top 5 quarterback in this class. 4-star Luke Kromenok, however you say his name. He's a top 50 player overall. 6th best player in the state of Georgia. 4th best quarterback in the country. That would be him. Yeah, everybody that was here for 2020 got an extra year. Roots in it. Roots a 5th-year senior this year, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go back and count again. I did that really fast. Yeah, he's a 5th-year senior now. I don't know that he's got a 6th-year he can use. I don't think Clemson's got anybody on their roster that qualifies to be a super senior next year. Yeah, Tyler Venable's up. He'll have another year he can use if he wants, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're planning on redshirting him this year just so he could have another year. Yeah, he's got another year he can use. If he so chooses to do so, which it sounds like he probably will. Does a 12-1 Louisville sniff the playoffs? Nope. Not without a lot of help, man. Their schedule's just too weak. Their out of conference schedule's atrocious, and they'll get FSU in the title game. But outside of that, I think they played Notre Dame, but they didn't get. I don't think. Let me pull up their schedule. I remember talking about how much of a joke their schedule was earlier this year. But my memory is just so terrible. I have to go back and look at it again. Shoot, they better hope they beat Kentucky, man. Even though I expect they will, it's definitely not a given. They do get Kentucky at home, and they beat Miami. And they beat Virginia Tech, Duke, Pitt. mean, they North Carolina State, Boston College, and their out of conference was Indiana, Murray State, Kentucky. Not a whole lot to hang your hat on, man. I don't think they get in with one loss. I don't think they got much of an argument, especially with all the so many teams right now that are still unbeaten. But I don't think they'll get in over a one loss Ohio State, a one loss Bama, a one loss Georgia. They don't have the data points some of those other teams do. If I'm can't remember if let's see here. I know Louisville beat Duke. Duke's not they ended up losing some games, but wasn't Riley Leonard out for that game? I can't. I think he. I don't think he played in that game. I can't remember though. Louisville is all of a sudden pretty solid on D. Yeah, hey, they are so much further ahead than where I thought they would be in year one under Jeff Brom. Man, they got the right guy in there now, and I thought they made the right hire when they hired Satterfield, but we all saw how that worked out. I thought Virginia Tech made the right hire when they hired Fuente. We saw how that worked out. Even though I mean I don't I think there were a lot of other things in play besides just him not being a good head coach. But yeah, I think they finally do have the right guy in place, an alum who really cares about that place, and he's got a vision, and it's kind of aligns with what the administration is. Does Clemson play Georgia the first game next year? Yes, sir. In Atlanta. Ought to be a very, very, very. I wonder how much of a. I wonder how the fans will end up being divided for that game. If it'll be heavy with Bulldog fans since it's there in Georgia, but Atlanta's not far from Clemson. If it'll be anxious to see how that works out if it's closer to 50-50. Because it's kind of right in the middle, those two cities, two campuses. We're not right in the middle. It's not the right way to say that, but right down, not too far down the road from each of those campuses. It's definitely not right in the middle. All right, man. I think I hit them all. Once again, don't forget, if you've not hit that subscribe button, we would very much appreciate it. We do this every Monday night, 7 p.m. right here. Again, we're just in a different location tonight. It's all right. No matter, we'll make it work no matter where we are. Me and Zach's usually right back here every Wednesday at 7. This week we're going to go on Tuesday night, it's a holiday weekend or holiday this week and all that good stuff, man. We're going to go a day early. So right back here tomorrow night at 7. But again, if you're not hit that subscribe button, please do so. Like the videos. We would very much appreciate it. Brady's already got his score prediction up here, 27-17. Good guys. Eddie says 80-20, Georgia fans. No, geography was definitely not my best subject in high school. I hated geography. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when I said it's right there in the middle, man. I was having a major brain fart. I was trying to make the point that it's not that far from Clemson. That was not the way I meant to say that thing at all. I get diarrhea of the mouth sometimes. All right, man. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Once again, if you've not hit that subscribe button, we would very much appreciate it. Hit that like button. come back and join us right here tomorrow. Me and Zach's gonna chop it up again right back here 7 p.m. And as always, I will be right back here next Monday night. Either we're gonna have a very happy show or we're gonna have a very pissed off show. Till then, see y'all next time.